Hello and welcome to this special town talk of the West Yorkshire Football Show. Hope you're all doing well on this Wednesday evening. So normally on a Wednesdays now we're going to do a bit of a town show, reviewing, previewing the games that have just been. Unfortunately, Callum and Zach aren't here this evening. They might be able to join a little bit later on, but it's fine. I've got a perfectly equal substitution to bring on. And it's lovely to welcome Martin, who is a long-time Shrewsbury Town fan, sort of an exile now up in the dear old Scotland. But nice to welcome you onto the show, Martin.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Much appreciated. It's always good to talk things town, even if it is the bad times at the moment. But I'm sure we'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah, 100%. So just to let people know, obviously, you're more than welcome to please like the YouTube channel, give it a subscribe, give this video a share, and obviously, if there's any Shrewsbury Town fans watching, get involved with the comments as well as Town fans. So, Martin, really, I suppose the best place to start is what's been your view of sort of Huddersfield Town coming down from the Championship into League One. We're just talking off air there where the Shrews are now the longest standing team in League One, being in for 10 years. So what's your view of Town coming down?
Yeah, I mean, Huddersfield, obviously I watch all sorts of football as well as a neutral, and it wasn't so long ago that Huddersfield were on Match of the Day, so they are certainly a big club. They're definitely not a League One club, but also, you're in League One for a reason. We've seen so many teams in the past, and still teams that are in the league at the minute, like Bolton, your Charltons, your Pompey's and all that have gone back up, and Wednesdays in the past, Ipswich have now gone back up in the Premier League. So, it's a good it's a good place to go. It's a big ground, big scalp. Like I say, it's not long ago you beat Man United in the Premier League. So for teams like Shrewsbury and fans like ourselves going to those grounds, it's a good opportunity to sort of test yourselves. But there's no kidding ourselves. It's going to be a tough ask. What I would say is Huddersfield's, as well. They've got to get in that right frame of mind early doors, and because there has been teams in the past that have taken 2-3 seasons to get back up. So, but you started off all right. So, yeah, we'll see how the rest of the season goes.
How we just doing the calculations, we've actually never played you in League One over obviously your time in the 10 years as spanned. We've actually been out of League One and in the Championship and, like say, the Premier League. How's League One changed? I mean, like you, I watch a lot of football. I think League One is one of them divisions that sort of is underestimated, really, in world football, European football, definitely. In being, obviously the Championship, I think, is one of the best divisions ever, just in terms of its drama and its whole sort of ethos, the way that somebody like Town can get promoted to the Premier League. But League One definitely has a number of storylines, which I just think is so fascinating. And this season is definitely up there. Obviously I'm going to say that because Town are in it. But you look back over League One seasons of the past, you've had Sunderland in there, Wolves, Ipswich, of course. And, there's been some massive clubs that have come down. And Shrewsbury's always been in there battling away against some of the big boys.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough because every year there's always going to be big surprises that come down from the Championship, and because the Championship is so challenging, like you say, 1 minute you could be in a relegation scrap, and then you get a run of 6 or 7 wins, you're in the top half of the league. So, I remember the last couple of seasons in the Championship when you looked at the teams coming down, it could have been one of about 10 or 11. So, whoever drops into League One in the previous few seasons has always been a challenge. And like I said just before, there's teams that have struggled to then go back up. It's also a good catalyst for teams that do drop down to League One to rediscover and maybe give them a bit of a kick up the backside to, recharge themselves. And you only have to look at Ipswich as a prime example of that. Managed to get the structure right, and they're now in the Premier League. You've got other teams like even Sunderland, to be fair, were struggling for years to get out of the league, found it really tough. All of a sudden, they were near a playoff challenge at one point. So, and probably Coventry as well as another example. It's just getting the mentality, I think, with the big teams coming down. It's getting that mentality from playing like at big grounds each week and tough games to maybe playing a different type of game against smaller grounds where the fans are more in your face. And just, it's a different type of challenge. But it's about having the right mentality and going into these games, not thinking it's already won, because you know what it's like on social media. There is a lot of fans that think that they should win the title straight away. And I think Birmingham will have that same challenge as well as yourselves. But it certainly is, again, you're probably looking at probably 10 teams that are probably in a chase of a playoff point. But there's always those 2 or 3 teams that like to sort of kick on around about the 3rd or 4th month. So it's always good to get a good start like you have.
What you talk about those big teams coming down from the Championship and getting a kick up the backside, and I'm sure that's in all of the 3 relegated clubs from last season, us being one of them, Birmingham and Rotherham. But I also feel that it's been probably hard for teams like you guys, because there's been a lot of good teams that have now come up from League Two. And probably the bottom end of the division has strengthened as well. You look this season in Wrexham, Stockport and Mansfield. I mean, they are sort of looking at, pushing on even further, really, than just surviving in League One. And I think that's maybe made it more difficult for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we there's no secret that money at the minute is not a great obstacle with us. We're sitting in a deficit, with the turnover. And you talk about teams coming down, teams coming up. Hate to say it, Shrewsbury fans listening to this, but Wrexham, who are main rivals, we know what they're all about. We don't need to talk too much about it. We'll sort of shift away from that. But there's even I think the frustrating thing with Shrewsbury fans is that there's teams that are on the same sort of level of us in terms of ground fan capacity, fans in terms of you look at like a Lincoln, maybe they're slightly bigger but similar sort of size. You would like to think that we could compete with. In the past, you look at. I mean, the thing that we had, there's been talks of investments and that, and then Burton Albion had an investment, which we've apparently turned down, and all of a sudden Burton Albion have been signing all these players, and money doesn't mean everything, but it does certainly help if you've got the right structure in place, management wise, and we are desperately in need of an investment, because to move forward in football now, it's all well and good having certain things in place, but money does help. And unfortunately, the way the game is going at the minute, you need to sort of keep with the times. And unfortunately, our chairman, who did what he did back in the day, he saved us. But we need to start living in the present, and we need to looking at the future. And unfortunately, we've got a very, very stubborn chairman who just won't want to, find us the right investments, and there's a lot of talk from our Shrewsbury fans now that they're absolutely fed up with him. It's like he's turned from being a great hero in the past to now being this, he's sort of poisoning the club, which is quite sad to see, really, because he has done a lot for Shrewsbury in the past, but like I say, times have changed, and like you said there, for teams like us, it's a challenge when you've got even like some Mansfield coming up. You've got a lot probably more money than ourselves. So it is a tough watch.
Has the guy there been sort of in charge for a long time then?
Yeah, I mean, in mid-90s, it was like just before I was a Shrewsbury fan. So we were struggling. He came in, saved. He saved his life, put the money. He's been there for a long, long time. But he's more interested in buying Bentleys and doing other investments and looking after the actual club.
Yeah.
The one thing that annoys me is we got in this deficit because we were overspending under Cottrell and Brian Caldwell, and we needed to rein it in with the overspends of like overnight trips, stuff that we shouldn't really be spending. But he's the person that's in charge of the club. At the end of the day, I don't know. He's let that slip. He's taken his eye off the ball. So he's got to take the blame for that. It always comes from the top in terms of where mistakes have been made, in my eyes.
So you're in a catch-22, I suppose, because you've seen what's happened to other clubs and how they've dropped through even into National League North, such as like Scunthorpe United and teams like that. Bury obviously went out of business altogether. Rochdale, Oldham, these sort of clubs have all gone down to the National League because the club has maybe gone and sold from somebody who has been there a long time to new ownership. But then, if you keep on the trajectory that you are, it's getting harder and harder to move up the Football League because, the chairman or the board isn't maybe as innovative as what they were back when they first took over the club.
Yeah, it's. I mean, a prime example is he brought Mickey Moore in last year from Cheltenham in this new director of football role as well. I mean, we wasted a six-figure fee apparently when we were in a financial ruin on some New Zealand striker who's now on loan and he's still got a 2-year deal. And all the players that we came in last year didn't work. He chose the manager, didn't work. So all this money that's been wasted as well since the talks of how much we're in a bit of trouble. So yeah, it is a catch-22. You're right, because there is that worry that the grass isn't always greener and things could go Pete Tong and you could be, like you say, dropping down the leagues. But at the same point, there needs to be a sort of a bit of an in-between, and you can't just keep doing what we're doing because it's only going to end one way, unfortunately. And it's a shame, really, because we go back to, we'll talk about Paul Hurst in a minute, but when he first came in charge, he saved us. We were 6 points bottom of the table back in 2016. We were 6 points adrift, came in. And then within 18 months, he took us within extra time. We lost to Rotherham, and we could have been in the Championship. And that's basically, since then, it's just been a slow digression. We had great cup runs and all that, but it's just not been great, pretty football to watch. And it's just, I mean, the last 2 or 3 seasons have just been awful, to be honest. It's been terrible.
Yeah. I remember, didn't you have a cup game against Man United? I think it was Man United.
Yeah, Man United, 5th round. Yeah. We played them, we lost 3-0, but we got to like the 5th round. That's the thing is, see, to be fair, we've had a good cup run in years, and it's not just like in one season. We've played Liverpool a couple of times.
Yeah.
Drew 2-2 with them, went to Anfield, so went 1-0 up at Anfield in another year before losing 4-1. But we've never disgraced ourselves in these big games, and that's the thing. Even in the league, we've beaten teams like Sunderland, we've beaten teams like Derby, we've gone away to Derby and drawn. We went away to Bolton last year and drew. We love a challenge against the big teams. It's just when it comes to playing the smaller teams. So Shrewsbury, for me, they play like a cup team, even in the league.
Yeah. No, I get that, and I suppose once you're in that mode of thought process, maybe it's hard to get out of. Thanks everybody for getting in touch with the comments. Blue Terrier 19. Up the town, mate. Terrier 930 says we need to go up this season without a doubt. Otherwise, I think we could be down there for a few seasons to come. Fingers crossed we can do it. Well, that's a good point. Obviously, Sunderland, Ipswich, are good examples. Charlton now have been down there for a couple of seasons, and obviously Bolton dropped into League 2. And then Blue Teddy 19 again says Shrewsbury's chairman sounds a bit like Dean Oil. Yeah, kind of. I see where you're going with it. We maybe the similarities there. let's dive into this season. Town have obviously won away at Peterborough. Last weekend, we beat Stevenage at home. Two teams that did, well last season. They were up there. I thought Peterborough were going to be better than what they were. And to be fair, as I've said previously in the last review and on some of the shows on Monday night, we dominated the first half, and then the second half we dominated that. Obviously, the first 15 minutes, sort of 20 minutes was a bit shaky. But then when we got into his rhythm and we scored the 2 goals, we controlled the game after that, really. And against Stevenage, I wasn't at the game, but I've been told and given reports and obviously watched the highlights that, again, we controlled the first half. And in the second half, it was just sloppy, sort of mistakes and not being quite on it. Probably thinking that we'd already won the game, maybe, and you can't do that in League One. We're not good enough to do that. We need to be better than that. And the penalty was given, and it ended 2-1. And then obviously in the Morecambe, in the cup game, Morecambe is Morecambe, and we beat them comfortably. So really, Martin, it's been a steady start to the season for Town, I'll be honest. We've not had too much of a challenge. I'd say we've absolutely dominated first half in the majority of the first half in games and come out, scoring the goals that we've needed to win the game in the end. And I just wonder from your point of view, because you've played the same opponents we have and you've had very different outcomes. You've played Peterborough and you've played Stevenage. I know that you played somebody different in the cup, but how's your sort of reaction been to the first 2 league fixtures?
First of all, I think that means it's going to be an easy 3 points for you on Saturday.
I count nothing in football, mate. I've watched too much football.
Yeah, you know what? If I was any other team, I'd be agreeing with you. But it's been woeful to say the least. What I will say is we lost the first game to Stevenage, and it's one of them games where Stevenage were really good last year, missed out on the playoffs late on. So the way we looked at the way I looked at that was, if we can go down there opening game of the season, scrape a draw, it sort of it puts a point on the board, and it gives the players a bit of confidence going forward. But losing that goal, and the thing is, it was signs of last season really, where we just weren't looking. We were looking toothless in attack. Lowest goal scorers in every single league. So that was the feeling. But Peterborough.
Was it quite tight? Sorry, the Stevenage game, because I know that you only lost it, I think 1-0 in the end.
Yeah, it was 1-0. But in terms of see, I deal with Kilmarnock, podcast, and I deal with the stats and that. So in terms of Shrewsbury's, chances, they were bare minimum. They were pretty poor, but Stevenage had a penalty straight as well, so they could have easily won that 2-3-0. So even though it was a 1-0, the scoreline probably didn't reflect what should have been maybe a bigger scoreline to Stevenage. But it's the first game of the season, so it's a 1-0 defeat. You're like, right, we've got to arrive at a 1-0 defeat. First home game, let's. Against Peterborough. We obviously had the game against Notts County to play against, and we were absolutely terrible again. First half, 2-0 down, and I just thought to myself, great, here we go. But we did show signs of, a good fight back, even though Notts County are League Two. To do it against any team, to come back with 3 goals in the last 20 minutes, you're thinking, right, this is better than last season. We're showing a bit of fight here, a bit of courage. We're 3-2 up, but then sloppy defending, from a corner in the last minute, take it the penalties, and we scrape through, and you're thinking, right, okay, at least we're scoring. Last season we're not scoring, and then Peterborough, pretty even first 20 minutes. We scored an absolute worldie, and you're thinking, right, this is our season starting, and then we just collapsed like a pack of cards in the second half, and I mean, it's even the timing of the goals. You know, we score a goal, you're 1-0 up at home, you're thinking, right, you know, let's keep it tight, and then within seconds, up the end, and we let them score. It was a good goal, but
because they scored within a minute of each other, didn't they?
Yeah, and then just at the end, I mean, second half, to be fair, their goal's a pretty good goal. You know, need to close him down. He's already done it in the first half. You need to close him down. But then in the last 5 minutes, man, I mean, you kind of give away the goals we did. It was just awful. I mean, they just literally ran through us. And I seen a Peterborough fan saying, "Who's let the two Shrewsbury Town nightclub bouncers at centre back play?" And that's pretty much what our defending is like at the minute. You know, they're not.
That's not a good sign, mate. That's not a good sign.
So, and it's a shame, really, because when I look at the team this year, I'm actually quite impressed with some of the signings that have come through the building. But it's just about fitness. We've got George Nurse, who's been with us, a good left back, but he's just been injured
Cardiff,
for a few years. Bristol City he came from, so we had him on. Bristol City, but he had a great first season, and then he's been injured the last couple of years. He's had 2 cruciate ligament injuries. So I don't know if we're just waiting for him to maybe build his match fitness, but we could do with having him back. Even at centre back, he'd be better because he's played there before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, we've got good players in attacking areas. You know, like Tom O'Reilly from Villa's looked good. He was really impressive. Young 18-year-old. We've also got the boy from Arsenal who was on loan at Swansea last year. Didn't really feature much, Sagu, but and he offered a bit of pace. He looked lively in the game yesterday against Fulham. Another game we lost. So yeah, we're scoring goals, but we're just this year it's not goal scoring that's the problem. It's now defending. It's worse than ever, and I do really worry about this season. I think this season, early signs is that if it doesn't improve dramatically in the next month or two, then it could be a long, hard season, meaning resulting in relegation, and that's the blunt sort of the way it is at the minute, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to obviously ask you about the sort of the attack. You like you say, you have got some good players in there, and do you think it's just a case of you need time for them lads to sort of get together and realise that they have got good teammates about them, and obviously I think you've got the boy Marcus up front, haven't you? Have I got that wrong?
Marquez, he offers a lot of experience, and obviously he's not really done too much so far, but he is someone that can maybe hold up a ball and have that experience with the younger lads. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, would he be a top goal scorer this season, do you think?
You're asking a Shrewsbury Town fan that's seen a lack of goals. You've probably scored more goals in the last 2 seasons than we have in the last 4.
I don't know, mate. We only got 48 last season.
Well, I wish we could score 48. Bloody hell. I think I don't know how many you ended up on. We ended up on about 30 odds, so we weren't too far behind. But anyway, no, it's about, you know what? To be fair, the danger man who scores goals and assists is Jordan Shipley. To be fair, he scored a couple of really good headers. He's one of these players that can go missing, but if the team's not playing well, but you can always rely on him to score, a worldie or even an assist. I think he chipped in with about 5 or 6 goals last year, and it's about 7 assists in all competitions. So we do rely on Shipley, to be fair, even though he can come under some criticism at times because he can just go missing in games. But I mean, he's at Shrewsbury for a reason, so I'm not going to slate him too much. I mean, he has scored some important goals for us in the past.
And you've got Jordan Rossiter, obviously. He was, I believe, at Liverpool as a kid.
Yeah, then he's actually up at Rangers as well, played a few games for Rangers. He's actually a really good player. He put a good ball in the cup game. He's got plenty of energy, but the worry is fitness, and obviously Bristol Rovers fans will probably be able to tell you about that.
Yeah.
He's a good. It's a shame really because we've got a really good player there, but injuries is going to always affect him, and he's probably going to maybe get 20, 25 games maybe at a season. I reckon. I don't think we'll see a full 46 games out of him this year.
No, and I see that you've got Steve Morrison as well still on your books.
Steve Morrison.
Yeah, well, that's what it says on Sky Sports. When I did my research earlier, Steve, yeah, it's on your books as a striker, Steve Morrison, apparently. Unless it's a different one, I don't know. But there we go.
Steve, I tell you what, Sky Sports needs to do their research, man. When did he sign for us? He signed for us after Hurst, was it about 2019?
Ah, well, okay. Well, fair play. I'm going to blame Sky Sports on that one. I've just checked now, literally, as you've just laughed, and it definitely is there. I've not read it wrong.
Tom Bloxon, by the way, is obviously a good young player like of ours.
He was also on the list, so they've done the research there.
No, it's we have lost a lot of key players. To be fair, in the past couple of seasons, and that's the problem. The budget's been cut, and we've not been able to replace those players. So Luke Leahy, quality player for League One, done well at Bristol Rovers, did well for us. We've also lost Marco Morosi, who surprisingly hasn't signed for anyone yet. He was a really good keeper for us, and then Daniel Ludo as well. Who's now at Wycombe. So.
So going into this game, obviously, well, one thing I want to do just before you go into the game this weekend, from a more maybe just slight tactical point of view, but what were your top 6 and bottom 4 before the season starts? Or started, sorry.
Yeah, so I didn't actually predict us to go down before it started, but
Town fans found that funny, by the way, too. So carry on.
So I mean, to be fair, Birmingham I've put in there because of the financial sort of backing that they've got.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I did have Wrexham in the playoffs, and Shrewsbury fans look away now. But they with the money they've got and the players they can bring in. I mean, they brought in Rathbone from Rotherham, I think. These type of players that have played and been up there. It was Birmingham. I actually had yourself as well. It's no order, by the way. This is like top
no. There's got to be an order.
Don't give me an order this time of the season, man. That's too much, bloody hell.
Go on then. No order.
So Birmingham, Huddersfield. I had Rotherham as well, but just they've done it. They know how to do it. Wrexham, Lincoln as well. Who's the one I had? It was
Bolton.
No, not Bolton. I didn't have Bolton.
Peterborough.
It was. I actually forgot the team I had now, which is actually embarrassing.
Leighton Orient, Bristol Rovers.
No, I've got it wrote down here. I've got it wrote down. I should have had this up before I came. I didn't know you were going to ask me this, so you've got me off my guard.
No, to be fair, I didn't think I was going to ask you anyway, but I just thought, do you know what?
It was Reading.
Reading? Interesting choice. Not one that is readily being given by the YouTube gurus out there, apparently. That
I always go for a dark horse, and I think just because of the back of last season and what happened, obviously a fresh start, and they've not done too bad. I think they beat Wigan at the weekend. I think Wigan might be up there as well coming into the season. You always get a team that will start off not too good, and then they'll shoot up the table. But that won't be us.
Well, they've got that new owner now, haven't they, at Reading? He's just taken over. And what was your bottom 4, mate?
Yeah, bottom 4. It was the Mansfield, but then they've actually started really well. Burton Albion. And who was the other 2 I had?
Crawley must have been one of them.
Yeah, Crawley. That was. I was just trying to think the one that came up, and then who was the one? It was. Oh, it was actually Stevenage as well.
Stevenage. So you back.
Even though they had a good season last year, and then obviously they beat us, you always see. I always try and go for. I don't try and go for the obvious. Like Stevenage for me, you always see a team that does really, really well, and then the next season they have a really bad season, and yeah. So just because they lost Steve Evans as well,
Yeah. Tell Town fans about that. We had that in 2020, 2021 when obviously we did really badly. Then we got to the playoffs and then we did really badly again. So, we know all about that roller coaster ride. So you back yourselves to stay up then?
Yeah, and well, there's 4 teams that go down, so I wasn't putting ourselves as in 10th or 11th or 12th. It was more 5th, 6th from bottom. So we weren't far off relegation, but I think the way it's going, we might finish bottom.
Oh, mate, I hope not.
Nah, I mean, obviously not. But it's watching the few games so far. The only sort of saving grace is we're scoring goals, and it's early in the season. Yes, the window's open. We've not got finances, but we have got a young defender, centre back that's not played yet on loan from Villa, Josh Feeney. So obviously we've got someone like him that can come in and hopefully if Morgan Feeney as well, who got injured in one of the recent games against Peterborough, if he comes back, because that's the thing, he got injured when we were, I think it was at 1-1. So yeah. I talked about the car crash in the centre of defence in the second half, and how we just fell away. But you just don't know how that game would have panned out if he'd stayed on. So sometimes maybe it's looking worse than it is because of the goals we've conceded and the fact we're bottom. But it's only 2 games in, so all it takes is for a team to win a couple of games. And sometimes it's not about the players in the building; it's about confidence and that, and taking confidence from any wins in the league. And anything can happen in football, really. So I'm not writing Shrewsbury off just yet, but we'll maybe reevaluate that come the next sort of 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Just before we end, then, in terms of like going into the match at the weekend, what the Town fans, Huddersfield Town fans, that is, need to watch out for if Shrewsbury do come up with a bit of a surprise? What kind of team will Paul Hurst put out? Like, how do you guys play or want to play anyway on the pitch?
Yeah, it's well, that's the thing. We play the flat back 4. With one in the front. So Winchester, our captain, is probably our most consistent player since he's signed. So we'll try and protect our defence with him, and then we'll have So usually, sometimes, like, it's hard to predict the formation. It can sometimes change, but flat back 4, you're looking at like a 4-3-3, but sometimes it can change to a 4-5-1. Playing away from home, you're probably going to want to look to like Shipley and Bloxon if they're playing out wide to support the striker, whether that be Marquis or Lloyd or
Steve Morrison.
Or Steve Morrison. If he can play as a defender, then we'll take him at centre back. He sounds a better name at centre back.
Might be better than the 2 bouncers that you've got there.
Yeah, if there's any decent nightclubs in Huddersfield, they can maybe stay and do a shift thereafter if they want. But no, it's going to be a tough ask. But I think what you'll need to watch out for is probably our set pieces, because that's probably where we're going to be most dangerous. Obviously, we talked about our bouncers at centre back, but they are quite good in the air in terms of the attacking sense. They're just not good at their feet. I think that with Jordan Shipley, as I mentioned there, he'll be the one that we're looking to sort of get the delivery in, and I think he'll be the threat that you'll need to watch out for.
Nice. What score are you going for? And I asked you that in some trepidation.
If we can get a 0-0, I'll bite your hand off for it right now. But funnily enough, I was actually looking at the previous results that we've played, and we've only ever beaten you once in the league when we have played you. in 1984, and that was 5-1. So that would be lovely if that happened again.
I think at that time, remembering my town history, that was one of our lowest ebbs. To be fair, was that in Division 2, maybe?
Yes,
Not Division 2, but the
League, the League 2. Yeah, the most recent game we played actually was a League Cup game in 2014. I remember that game.
Yes,
we won.
Yeah, you won, didn't you?
Yeah, we won.
You beat us in the League Cup second round.
Yeah, first round. I think it was
first round. Chris Powell was manager. He'd just sort of taken over.
Because I remember we scored after about 2 minutes, and it was some AJ Leach Smith, and I thought he's a decent player, and then he was absolutely rotten for us afterwards. So his highlight of his career for Shrewsbury was scoring against you lot.
Well, I'll tell you what, he'll treasure it. I'm sure he's got it on DVD.
But yeah, I think I've got to be honest. Obviously, you kind of not. You always want to back your team, but you've got to be realistic. And the way it's going at the minute, I'd probably see Huddersfield winning 2-0.
2-0. I unfortunately have got to tell you that I've gone for, on our main Monday round table show where we always do predictions. I've gone for a 4-1 win, just because I think, you guys are coming with sort of not a good sort of playing style. Well, not playing style, but obviously you've not had good results so far in the first 2 games that you've played. From what I understand, and you can tell me more, but apparently after the sort of second goal Peterborough scored, heads sort of seemed to go down a little bit from your boys' angle, and that's never a sign of a good team to me, even though you could still get back into it. And although I do rate sort of Paul Hurst as a manager, I do think he's decent at the lower league level. There's only so much he can do, only so much magic he can work out of the obviously limited resources you've got. So unfortunately, my friend, I'm going for a 4-1 victory to Huddersfield.
No, you're right. With Paul Hurst, you're right and spot on. You can only do so much. I mean, there's only so much. You can only polish a third, so much times, and it's not that great. Like I said, Paul Hurst is limited with what he's got, and it's you don't need to apologise for that, because it wouldn't surprise me if it ended up being a 4 or 5-1. But what I will say is, as I said before, that Shrewsbury have come out and surprised teams when they're really up against it. I mean, there was times last year we would be going to places and getting hammered 3-0. Paul Hurst came in, and we went to Derby and we drew. We went to Derby 1-1, we drew, and then we also went to Bolton at the end of the season when they were chasing the top 3, top 2 or 3. So, and we drew 2-2. So, and that's when we were really bad as well. So, in the back of my mind, the best result we'll get is a draw, and it wouldn't surprise me either if that actually happened on the back of all this chat, because that's just football for you, isn't it?
Yeah, we both watched a lot of football, mate, I can tell. And you're obviously very knowledgeable about not just Shrewsbury, but thanks very much for joining us on the show this evening. I really appreciate your time. And just to let everybody know, Martin obviously is an exiled, sort of Shrewsbury fan, now living in Scotland, and you've got a Kilmarnock podcast. So if anybody wants to check out Scottish football, and particularly the Killie, where do they need to go, Martin?
Yeah, so the KFC View on Twitter. You can also find all on all available streams, like obviously Apple and that, and Buzzsprout is the main one that we use to load it all up on. But if you are fancying to watch as a neutral, we are playing FC Copenhagen in the Europa Conference qualifier as well. So yeah, and if you've got any decent players that you want to send up to Kilmarnock in the future, send them
or down to Shrewsbury. We'll
down to Shrewsbury. Well, saying that, before you go, I was just going to say there actually about former players. You sent us some guy called Michael Parker, who was absolutely did nothing for us. He sent us Phillips, who was injured. I think he played 1 game.
Yeah,
I was actually disappointed with that, because I actually had high hopes on him. And
he's now scoring goals in America.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh well, there you go then. So but yeah, no, it's been great being on anyway, and good luck to Huddersfield for the rest of the season. I'm really sort of positive that you won't do a Sunderland or an Ipswich. I think you'll bounce back up first time, and I don't think you fans are as big-headed as some of the other big teams that have come down. I think you're quite level-headed, you lot. So yeah, wish you luck for the rest of the season.
Oh, mate, that's very nice to say. We're from Yorkshire, so we're more dour, if anything. And sometimes we get a little bit moaning and a little bit negative, but we certainly don't get big-headed, unlike Birmingham fans. But there we go.
Yeah.
And best of luck for the rest of the season for you as well, Martin. Obviously, at both Killy and Shrewsbury, obviously, except at the weekend. And unless we meet ever Killy in Europe, which won't ever happen. Yeah, and I'm sure if you want to, we'll get you back on the channel later this season when we face again down at your place. It'd be great to get you back on.
Yeah, much appreciated. Right, cheers. Take care.
All right, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you very shortly. If you're going to check out the channel, I think Jay and Steve are on with Leeds United tomorrow for their usual chat, and then we'll be back on Monday with the usual mammoth roundtable viewership. So make sure you get on those two streams that are coming up. But for now, take care, enjoy the football at the weekend, and stay classy up the town.